era of disruption. An age when the barriers to entry are falling across every industry. And the winners will be those who can turn ideas into reality at the speed of imagination.
We're on the cusp of enormous change now, and it's driven by what we describe as the idea economy. Ideas have always been the lifeblood of businesses. The difference now is from idea to realization of that idea to actually being in business has gone from years to potentially days.
HP is launching a new company, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, to help customers thrive in this new era where IT and business strategy aren't separate. They're inseparable.
It's almost like the competitive matrix kind of thing, right? Here's what others are doing. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise really is the only company that takes that combination of hardware, software, services, or the human side, and brings it all together into one thing.
Our objective, our sole objective, is to ensure the success of our customers as they navigate this new style of business powered by IT. In your career, the chance that you get to reinvent a Fortune 50 company, I'd say, are almost zero. And that's an exciting opportunity for us.
Everything we do here is all about keeping the customer at the center and then, aligning our strategy to help them progress with their objectives. And obviously, speed and agility are things that they have to improve.
Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is on a mission to help enterprises adapt to the new realities of the idea economy, helping them build flexible IT infrastructures, find valuable insights in data, deal with cyber threats, and enable their workforces to be productive wherever they are.
Every company is a technology company, because if you are not moving your infrastructure to the new style of IT, you run the risk of not being able to compete with a disruptor in your industry. It's a whole different world today than it was even 5 or 10 years ago.
Dave started this a little over 75 years ago, and they started it to do things that didn't exist yet. The entire reason I joined Hewlett-Packard was probably one line that came out of Dave Packard, which was make a contribution. Our job in life is to illuminate the road ahead and to have others follow our taillights.
From the garage where Silicon Valley was born to a new era with 2 companies, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise continues to push the boundaries of technology.
As we separate into 2 new companies, we want to be able to lean forward to refocus, refresh, reignite innovation, and take these 2 companies to places that perhaps we never dreamed they could go.
Welcome to the idea economy. What will you think of next?
Hello, everybody. My name's Guy Daniels. I'm Director of Content at TelecomTV, where you can find out more about IoT and all things telecoms. And for the next 20, 25 minutes, I'd like to chat with my guest, Edmond Mesrobian, who is Chief Technology Officer at the retail giant Tesco. We're going to be talking about Tesco, we're going to be talking about the role of technology, your role, IoT. But first, just for the benefit of everyone in the room, a little bit of background, if I can introduce you. In your early career, you founded a successful startup. You've developed internet culture, early internet culture at Disney Online. Co-founded the UCLA Data Mining Lab, focusing on global climate change and scientific collaboration. You've been CTO at some highly successful and leading companies, including Expedia and Real Networks. And you've spearheaded operational and technical innovations enterprise-wide. One example I was just looking at the day about Expedia, how you created this scalable business ecosystem to try and increase efficiency and growth. And now you're also independent director at Apogee, I believe, a company that provides technology for digital acceleration. Well worth looking at if you don't know Apogee. And Edmond took on the role at Tesco in about middle of last year, June?
That's right, June of last year.
June last year, fantastic. Specifically with your role as Chief Technology Officer at Tesco, what are the key objectives for technologists at a retail company?
The transformation that Meg talked about in the video, and if you think about the classical CIO role and understanding that IT delivery, a project-centric model, has gone. And that at the core of the statement of being a technology company means that you have to kind of rephrase what technology is trying to deliver for you. And it becomes going from a delivery model to a partnership model. And in that model, you have to then say, how do you actually create agile product? Because ideas are products. And the CTO's role is to facilitate company-wide an ability to take product manifestations from across the company and transform them into executables in a meaningful way. And so the transformation at Tesco was to go from a CIO to a CTO to change the culture, not just in technology and what does technology mean, and the caliber of technologists, but also to change the company's mindset on how to go think about creating world-class and customer-pleasing products. And that is the transformation we're on.
Because Tesco has been investing heavily, hasn't it, in its e-commerce activities, its mobile side. It has a history of looking at technology, but as you're saying, you're trying to take it to this different level.
Well, I think that Tesco has had a rich history of innovation in retail. And if I think about the loyalty programs, the scan as you shop, and there's a number of things where Tesco was leading in that arena. I think that what happens, though, is that, as Meg said, the battle is different. It's at a different scale now. And therefore, those mega contributions of inventing a club card program, loyalty program, the scan as you shop, so on and so forth, are not sufficient. You have to kind of do that at a different pace now. And therefore, you have to kind of change and reframe how technology will be embedded in the business as opposed to technology being a separate island. And it's similarly, in a similar vein, it's like saying digital is not a vertical, it isn't a group, it isn't an officer. Digital is the company. And it's the same mindset that together we have to kind of break through the barriers to create one organizational model that says, be brilliant at creating ideas, testing them out, innovating along the way, and then at the end of it, delighting customers, in our case, serving business shoppers a little bit better every day. And so that's our mindset, and we're trying to change the paradigm of the company so we can actually revolutionize retail. Not for the sake of just revolutionizing retail, but actually, at the end of the day, to create value for our customers and shareholders. And we can't do that if we don't change the way the entire company works.
So a lot of companies, and not just retailers, will view technology as a component, a go-to. We need a solution, let's go to technology guys, they'll come up with something, come back to us. What you're saying is we need to change all that, we've got to look at this whole idea of agile product development.
Yeah, look, online is easy. It's well-traveled ground. And when we talk about IoT and you think about what the online experience has been for 25 years of being able to go instrument and measure, the biggest innovation that happened in online was the ability early on to gather data that was valuable and transform that data into action. Well, IoT at its core in the retail sector is to provide that same data gathering fabric, that sensor fabric that has been missing and has been very opaque. It's almost like the old television model. That is the opportunity. But when you think about that problem, what you have to ask yourself is, does Tony Hoggett, who runs our retail operations in our stores, does he think of our stores as a product? Does he think of the till as a product? Does he think of the aisle and the spacing as products, metaphorically? And then innovate each of those along whatever investment profile we deem is appropriate, as opposed to thinking that the products are really the bananas we put on the shelf and the fresh groceries, so on and so forth. And the mindset shift is everyone at the company has to think product and then figure out what is the data you need to innovate that product, to reduce the life cycle and the investments required to go and test the edges and get customer feedback. And that's the opportunity in front of us, and why IoT plays a role in that, and then be able to convert the sensors into models into action.
I know you've only been in the role less than a year, so it's slightly bit unfair, but what progress have you made so far? How are you going about this?
Well, when I say product now, we don't think bananas anymore, so that's progress. I know, simple victories. Look, I think that the things that I would call, when you come into a role and try to go from a CIO to a CTO mindset, the number one thing you're changing is culture. And culture not just in technology and technologists, but also the culture of the company and how to approach technology. And I would say that we're making progress in that when I speak to the board, when I speak to the executive teams, it's about how do we become agile product, not agile development. Agile development is not meaningful. It's a necessary thing. It's making the cake better, metaphorically. But if you can get agile product thinking to be embedded across the company, you've not done magic. You've actually unleashed not innovation, because innovation is overloaded. You've unleashed creativity in meaningful chunks that are executable, and you put creativity in the hands of everybody's responsibility, as opposed to a labs or a special few.
And how do you see the role of IoT here? Is IoT the network of sensors and the devices that's capturing the data, or is it the processing and analysis of that data into meaningful action?
Well, look, I would say that if you're just gathering data to feed your lake metaphor, it's a wasteful exercise. It's just collecting more bits per unit time. I think that at the core, if I look at IoT at Tesco, what we are trying to do with IoT is solve a set of core business problems that have always existed. We're not trying to create new business problems. The models are well known. So let me give you maybe 2 or 3 examples that cut across. We've been doing a lot of work in robotics to solve a classical problem in retail, and that's availability. How do you make sure that when a customer comes into our stores, they could actually find the product that they desire? It's available. It's displayed well, and it's available. Well, how do you do that where availability is a key concept to customers and a key customer need? How do you do that in a meaningful way at scale? Well, one way you can think is just hire more folks to go around and scan the aisles. One of the things we're piloting, and we've done some work with a couple of robotic companies, is to have robots go down the aisles, take imagery of different types, and then figure out where are their gaps, and then provide that signal immediately to the replenishment teams in the store and upstream to start actually getting the replenishment cycle started. Well, if you can do that a couple of times a day, as opposed to once a day when you go at night and restock the shelves, you can actually ensure a higher availability. That's an important thing to customers. So that's IoT of a form, because you're taking the sensor data, you're modeling it against a model you have about what the availability should be for that footprint. You're then figuring out where it is in your supply chain. You're not only igniting the supply chain locally, but also upstream to our distribution centers, and then at the end to the supply network. That's one example. Another example, I guess in that same vein, the early versions of this, where we realized that there was actually fruit there, was we had our famous broccoli cam. I know, it's like, wow, what a cool name, the broccoli cam. And that was a simple thesis, like, oh my gosh, fresh is important, groceries are important. And so what if you put cameras in the ceilings and measured, where broccolis are being presented? And if you just capture enough snapshots, and you can start seeing demand profiles through the day by just looking at the imagery and seeing okay, this image has a full basket, this one has only 2 broccolis left, you can get a feeling of demand. Now that's a very crude way of doing sensing. That was done 5-6 years ago, okay? But yet it was meaningful enough in the sample of the stores we took that we learned how to modify our models enough so that we can actually improve the availability of fresh, and taking that as an example. It's come a long way since then. We have a fleet. If you saw our grocery home shopping is the leading grocery online provider in the world. If you look at our van fleet and going out to the UK, it lights up the island. It lights up the UK. And then the amount of data we have, telemetry data coming back, telling us what's happening on the network, what's happening, how our drivers are doing, are we actually delighting the customers, are we delivering on time, are we getting customer feedback? There's a rich vein of possibility to connect not just the delivery aspect, the logistical nature, but also empowering those our colleagues that are delivering the groceries to actually have a conversation with the consumer. Well, how do you do that? Well, one way you can think about it, if I have telemetry information, you figure out what you're doing, that driver can signal ahead to the customer, hey look, I'm running 15 minutes late. I know the slot was between this and this time, but I want you to know I'm ahead of schedule and I want to come earlier. Just providing feedback loops, not just for your own optimization, but also to empower the customers is an important opportunity. And then the final thing is, we're doing a bunch of work, just giving some simple examples. In the home, how do we connect with the customer at home? It's one thing to say connect with the customer in the store. It's obvious. That's core to our mission. But can we do something more than just offering an online shopping experience, right, where you go and fill your basket, so on and so forth? And so we're looking at different kinds of IoT devices, and there's a whole number of them where you just scan. You scan the product you just finished. You just finished a Tesco organic milk. Well, here, click, scan, it's in your basket, off you go. And clearly we've been able to do that with the mobile phone app. But are there other form factors that are equally conducive to having that immediate response, saying, oh, I just ran out, click, done, don't have to think about it, it'll be on the next order. And we're trying to figure out how customers want to engage. And this is the final thing I would say is, IoT to us at Tesco isn't these $1 million bets, these big bets, because they're wasteful. They're wasteful because it's still early days, right? Just like it was early days in the internet about what resonates, what that feedback loop really is. But it allows us to do a lot of throwing pebbles, experimenting. Does that IoT device, does that interaction model work? Are we getting data from that loop that is worth investing further on? And we're trying to do a ton of trials just to learn. And I think the industry is trying to learn.
So it's just the role of Tesco Labs to sort of throw a lot of ideas out, talk about things, come up with experiments, and basically see what happens on quite a small scale.
That's correct. That's one of the core roles is to actually hypothesize what are the kind of interaction models in retail? What are the trends in retail? How does Tesco engage and benefit from those trends? And how does how is it a leader in those trends as opposed to a laggard? And as Meg said, if you're not innovating, there's a ton of companies out there that are pure plays, metaphorically, that are coming over the top and saying, I can go shop for you, I can go pick your own groceries, and I can deliver them for you from a Tesco, right? And our goal is to have the labs look at those opportunity spaces, hypothesize what we should try to experiment, but I would argue that's no different than if you're building the next generation of our online shopping experience. It's from an agile product methodology, you're hypothesizing what is the next thing to try, how are we going to measure that, what does success look like, and iterate that. So the labs are just one area that is acting like that traditionally, and we're trying to get the entire company to act like that. So I'll just stop there.
Well, you mentioned the video we just saw prior to this. Something else that Meg Whitman said that I took a note of there. She said, every company is a technology company. Do you think every company realizes this yet?
No. Look, the problem is, it's scary to say that, right? And in fact, when I say it at Tesco, you get a lot of looks like, oh, Lord, who let that guy in? And Meg's spot on, as they say in the UK. Every company that doesn't have a technology capability will become a laggard at some point, because you won't be able to compete at the time scale as required. The trick is how to make that a positive thing as opposed to a threat. Oh my gosh, we're not a technology company, we're not Amazon, we're not Google. And you don't have to be Amazon and Google, because that's what comes to mind. What the vision you have is, oh my gosh, we have to figure out how to get there. And rather, what the thesis is, you have to figure out how to view first technology as a strategic weapon, not as a cost and a need of doing business. Second, you have to figure out how to embed technology at the table with the product creation, as opposed to just an execution arm once products have been, quote unquote, envisioned. And third, you have to, and I think this is where, you have to increase the caliber of the talent you have. Because the competition, the problems you're trying to solve, whether logistics and data analytics, or the user experiences, there's a ratcheting up of experiences, because we as customers are expecting brilliance from the people we interact with, right? The Apples, the Googles, the Amazons, and as such have all kind of upped the game in terms of the experiences that customers are expecting. And therefore, if you don't have a technology capability and you don't think you need that as your core, you cannot compete and meet customer expectations.
Anybody in the audience want a question? Want to ask Edmond anything? Now is your perfect opportunity. Oh, there's a gentleman in the back here. There's a microphone just coming to you.
Yeah. So when you define agile product, what are the operational implications that had to change in Tesco to bring that about, or are still occurring?
Well, I would say that in the areas of online, we've been acting in an agile product mode. We've just gotten better at it. And so the agile philosophy is well known and well traveled. when you take that same philosophy and then you just move it to, how do you innovate that till? Right? What are the hypotheses you're going to try to execute there? And try to get the mindset to go from these long year-out releases, we're going to try 2 things this year to get done, right? But rather, no, we're going to break it down. We're going to try, and we're going to not assume that that till could only be modified twice a year because of the cost of getting it executed across the real estate. But rather, smaller bets, working with our partners where appropriate, where we don't own the technology ourselves, and making sure that we can actually improve the speed to release. So I would love to be able to release tills, 8, 10 times a year, as opposed to the idea that it was like once or twice a year if you're lucky. And that as one example. The other thing I would say we're trying to do is, just like everyone looks at pure play and says, oh my gosh, can we just copy that, right? The Ubers, all the over the tops, right? Well, how do you use online as a weapon? Instead of having online be a distinct channel model, I'm actually trying to use that as a forcing function back into the store. So if you think about online and it's the way it thinks, how do you get the online teams to help our retail partners in the stores to say, the scan as you shop, we're going to reinvent scan as you shop now, because we have the customer connected, the customer journeys are unified, there is no different experience, we're not 2 separate UI teams. You can actually accelerate the innovation back in our physical retail space, which is a competitive advantage. And rather than making it, my gosh, we're not pure play, we don't have to be. We can actually be better than pure play.
Edmond, thank you very much, and I think it's time we hand it back to Matt. Edmond, thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you.